And Mark, now it's time to close out the podcast, and I will throw this pitch out again like it did at the beginning of the podcast. If you have not already, make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. That's where you can go and support MVP. Every dollar this year goes towards us getting us a new studio that we desperately need because, like I've said in numerous videos, we're in a glass case of emotion. Literally, it's a square box that we record these videos in, and we need more space to do more things for you guys and make better videos and better content for you. So you can go down patreon.com and be rewarded for helping support us on our journey to make this product better for all of you. But let's close out the podcast, Mark, talking about a team that we already talked about earlier on in winners and losers, and that was the Washington Redskins. You said that they were a winner because of drafting Dwayne Haskins, and I even brought up Montez Sweat as well. The question I want to ask you is, because the Giants took Daniel Jones at 6 and Dwayne Haskins went to the Redskins at 15, both of these quarterbacks now are entwined, not by same draft class, but they are now in the same division. And Dwayne Haskins will probably start this year. Daniel Jones will probably not start this year because Eli Manning, Grandpa Manning, is still there, and it's still his lawn at MetLife Stadium. But the question I want to ask you is, when we look at the end of their careers, will Dwayne Haskins have a better overall career than Daniel Jones when it's all said and done?
I would have to think so, although I don't trust the Washington Redskins as a team, especially management-wise. But I think he has to be. He has to be a better quarterback than Daniel Jones, because I'm shocked that Daniel Jones went 6 overall, just like the rest of the world is. And even though I like what Pat Shurmur can do with an average quarterback, he's done it before, I just can't actually imagine Daniel Jones is really going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I just don't think he has it. There are too many flaws in his game that made him not somebody you would take at 6 overall or the first round at all in general. It's very interesting to me with the Giants, because they claimed that David Gettleman has a plan, Pat Shurmur has a plan. There's a plan in place. That plan apparently involved getting rid of Odell Beckham Jr., getting an extension.
After saying at the Combine they weren't going to get rid of OBJ.
Right, getting an extension for Shepard, drafting Daniel Jones at number 6 overall. So there's a plan. I don't know what it is. I don't think anyone really knows what it is. It might be in order to be bad for a little while. Who knows? But Eli Manning will be gone at some point in the not-so-distant future.
Probably after this year, in my mind.
Or sooner, really. He might not make it for the full year, depending on what their real plans are with Daniel Jones and how this team is. And it's not that Eli Manning was a terrible quarterback last year. He still threw for 4,000 yards.
He's just old.
Yeah, he's just not what he used to be. So I could totally see it that they let Eli play the full season, or at least most of it, move on to Daniel Jones and hope for the best from there. But I just cannot for the life of me see that even with Pat Shurmur there, a guy who works well with quarterbacks, I can't really see that they turn Daniel Jones into someone that's going to be better than what your options were with Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins, who is ready to start now. And to be fair, I think there is value in saying, but the Giants don't need somebody to start now. They need somebody to start in a year or two.
Yeah, well, you could have got Daniel Jones
at 17.
Later. And I think it's BS. I think it's Gettleman basically when we hear the thing of like, well, there were 2 other teams that really wanted Daniel Jones before 17. First off, like Mel Kiper said, we're never going to know who those teams are.
Yeah.
Because after how much the Giants got bashed after making that pick, no GM in their right mind are going to say, well, I would have drafted him in the first round, because they don't want the hate to be kind of spit onto them.
I think it's teams right behind them, like the Buccaneers or something like that, being like, oh, yeah, we totally want Daniel Jones. You should draft Daniel Jones.
But, like, it's
don't take our player that we want.
It's kind of like, it reminds me of whenever you've been in, like, hanging out with your friends or something, and your friend makes a really dumb decision, and you make fun of him for it, and your friend tries to justify it of like, I'm gonna say this to justify my reasoning that I'm not stupid. But you're still like, dude, you're an idiot for doing that. That's what Gettleman is when he says, oh, well, 2 other teams are going to take it. It's like, no, you're just trying to, whatever you need to say to help yourself sleep at night, fine, say it. But I'm not buying it. Also, one of the funniest things I saw, and this is a hat tip to our own Sean Anderson, this was the morning after the Thursday draft. This was the morning of day 2 at 10 a.m. Sean said, instead of drinking myself to sleep, I'll just read Dave Gettleman quotes. And here it is. It says, Reporter 2, did you just say you drafted a quarterback at number 6 and he might sit for 3 years? Gettleman's response, who knows? I may go out there in my car and get hit. You don't know, Sal. We drafted a quarterback that we think is a franchise quarterback. That's really the long and the short of it. Like, I read that and I'm like, really? Like, that's kind of...
If you truly believe he's a franchise quarterback, you play him sooner rather than later.
Yeah. You don't... To me, you don't draft a guy in the top 10 at quarterback that you think is going to sit for 3 years. Like...
A year? Sure.
Well, and...
2? No.
I was going to bring
3, stop it.
Like, you look at it and it's like, Patrick Mahomes, yes, did he sit a year? Was he a top 10 quarterback? No, he wasn't a top 10 quarterback. He was outside. Close, but he was outside the top 10. The only question I have for you, because you're the Bears fan in the room.
I sure am.
Did Mitch sit his first year?
Kind of.
He played at the end, right?
He played for a little bit more than just the end, but
okay.
yeah.
But John Fox wanted to sit him the full year originally, correct?
That was the original plan.
Okay.
Well, the original, I don't think it was really a full year kind of thing. It was just he's going to sit because we just paid Mike Glennon.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because they had that deal of like, and actually I was wrong. Patrick Mahomes was top 10. So he was number 10.
Oh, I thought he was like just outside.
No, I'm looking at it right now. Mahomes was 10. It was Deshaun Watson who was just outside.
That's what I was thinking.
And if I'm not mistaken, Deshaun Watson started right away.
He did.
For the Texans.
He was the first starter and he was the latest drafted.
Because they really didn't have anyone at quarterback and really needed someone. That's why they took Deshaun Watson. But it's like, you don't take someone at number 6 that is going to be a 3-year developmental guy.
Well, because then you only got 2 years before you have to actually pay him.
Yeah.
And it's one thing when you've got Brett Favre playing really well and Aaron Rodgers, who has work that needs to be done, is behind him. Daniel Jones has work that needs to be done too. But Eli Manning's ready to go at any minute. And it's obvious that they
you mean go like retired.
Yeah. It's obvious they're thinking about the future after Eli Manning, and in order to do that, they said, who's the guy that reminds us the most of Eli Manning? Let's go draft him. He even was coached by a Manning at one point.
Yeah.
It's very obvious what they were doing with that, and I love this other quote, too, from Gettleman.
Which is weird, because Gettleman didn't even draft Manning.
No, but he sees the success, and he wants it. He says, in time, you'll be very pleased. Which is a hilarious quote to me of like, if you just wait around long enough,
so
you'll like it.
If I was a Giant fan and I saw that quote, you know what my next response would be?
When?
You'll be fired?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'd be thinking. In time, I'll be pleased. So in a couple years, you'll be fired and I can actually enjoy my team again.
Well, and that quote to me also says that, and you don't want them to just draft quarterback early after quarterback early, but
we'll look at the
Cardinals,
the Browns,
and the Browns. Yeah,
like the Browns, we always made. Eventually, they got it right. Like Baker Mayfield at the time have gotten it right.
Well, let's let him play another year too.
I know, but like right now, we don't seem down on Baker Mayfield.
No, we're not down on him at all. But if we are bad next year, and let's say we can get a Herbert or Tua, whoever the number 1 quarterback is, you mean we're not going to take him? Because we got Daniel Jones, and in time we'll be very happy. Like 3 years down the line. To me, it has a very similar scent as Paxton Lynch being drafted by John Elway for the Broncos, of a guy who shouldn't have gone in the first round, had some things that you liked that you saw, and a lot of question marks. and it was really going to be up to whether or not they could pull it all together. And the guy who was drafted there never really has the chance, or never really gives himself the opportunity.
And just for me to pull this up, so Dave Gettleman, and I know that right now we're focusing a little bit more on Daniel Jones.
Well, because, I mean, the answer to the question is obvious. Of course, Dwayne Haskins should be better.
The thing with Dwayne Haskins, and this is where I'll give my answer for Redskin fans who are like, come on, is basically...
I think Redskins fans are very fine with us just trashing the Giants.
The only question I have about Dwayne Haskins is how he's going to mesh with Jay Gruden. But that's not a question of Dwayne Haskins. Fine. That is a question of Jay Gruden's future with the Redskins. Like, the Redskins aren't going to get rid of Dwayne Haskins. They'll get rid of Jay Gruden if they have to. Like, that's basically the long and the short of it. But the thing I was going to look up is, so from 2013 to 2016, Gettleman was the GM of the Panthers. Same position he's in right now with the Giants. Basically took 2 years off, and now he's back at it.
Kind of nice little vacation.
The first round draft picks that he had under the Panthers, his first draft in 2013, they had the 14th pick in the first round. He took Star Latulippe. Good pick. He also took Kenyon Barner in the 6th round that I really like. Then in 2014, he took Calvin Benjamin, 28th overall. At the time, a good pick. Now he's no longer on the team.
Yeah, that was more of a player himself with the issue.
Then he took Shaq Thompson in the first round, 2015. I really liked that pick. That was 25th overall. And then in his last pick, took Vernon Butler, defensive tackle, out of Louisiana Tech in the 2016 draft. But really, the reason why they were the Panthers were really successful was the 2 drafts before him. 2011, their first round pick was who?
Cam Newton.
And then 2012.
Man, doesn't that make you feel old?
Yeah.
2011 was Cam Newton's
in 2012, it was Luke Kuechly was their 9th overall pick, and then a little guy in the 5th round called Josh Norman. Don't know if you remember him or not.
Washington Redskins fans might.
He's now on the Redskins. But like, out of those first round picks, really, 2 of the 4 were ones I really like. And like, Shaq Thompson wasn't like, oh man, he's amazing. It's just, I like that pick.
Yeah, it's a really good pick.
Same with Star Latulippe. But like, Calvin Benjamin, not on the team anymore. Vernon Butler, wasn't one that really made me feel like, like that he's entering his 4th year in the NFL right now, and has played a total of 38 games. The last 2 years, he's played 14 games for the Panthers. So, like, to me, the real crux of this question depends on what Daniel Jones does, not what Dwayne Haskins does, because there are more questions in my mind about DJ than DH.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is worried about Dwayne Haskins. They might be worried a little bit of the things around him. And Adrian Peterson, is he going to come back and still be as hot as he's been lately? He's up there in age. When does that kind of fall off, that production? He needs some help at the wide receiver positions, things like that. But Dwayne Haskins, I think, is going to be just fine. He's going to have rookie moments, of course, because he's a rookie, and that's what happens. But he's going to be a good quarterback still. But when you look at Daniel Jones, even though Gettleman wants to tell us that Rome wasn't built in a day, another quote he told people.
Joakim Noah told us that too.
Yeah, exactly. Usually when people say that, it's a please don't fire me. I really want to be here for a little while longer. I like being paid type of a thing. So, you can think that you should trust the process, since you mentioned basketball, but sometimes trusting the process doesn't really work out that well.
Yeah, and Philly, you even look, I love that you bring that up, because if you look at it, the guy who was the originator of Trust the Process and Sam Hinkie got fired. He didn't even get to see the end of the he didn't get to see the end of the process. Yeah. He didn't even get to see the end of it because they dished him and then started saying, "Hey, we're going to trade some of these draft picks."
Remember that process,
guys?
We're done with the process.
Where it was basically suck for ping pong balls. And basically throw shit at the wall and see what sticks and what doesn't. That was the process.
But you know what? The Giants might be able to do the same thing. in the near future because they traded off a lot of good players and then kind of sort of signed some players that were good, but not as good as the one just got rid of. I'm specifically talking about OBJ here.
Yeah.
And then I still just don't understand what's going on with Daniel Jones.
So here's one question that has been circling in my head because when he was drafted at 6, I threw out the comparison of I see Daniel Jones being the next Paxton Lynch. Mm-hmm. That's what I see. I see a quarterback that
Totally
is not going to be a good starter in the NFL. Paxton Lynch is currently still in the league, miraculously. He just got picked up as a backup to Russell Wilson in Seattle, so he's not going to get to see the field anytime soon, as I knock on wood because I don't want Russell Wilson to get injured.
Hey, backup quarterback's a good job. I would take it.
Paxton Lynch, or would you be Alex Moran and be a third string?
If I'm getting paid, I don't care.
Trickle down banging?
A fourth string quarterback on the practice squad makes more money than I do, so
but I'll
take it.
You had Paxton Lynch. The thing I will ask you, will Daniel Jones be better or worse than Paxton Lynch? Paxton Lynch only playing 2 years with the Broncos before being let go.
And years, how many games did he actually play? That's the big one.
He had 3 games in 2016, 2 started, 2 games in 2017. So he had a total of 5 games, 4 starts.
I think Daniel Jones has to be better than that, just by the default of he will play more than Paxton Lynch. Because Paxton Lynch's biggest issue, too, was from what I've heard, I mean, I don't know the man personally, but he never had the motivation to actually learn and get better. I have to think Daniel Jones will have to at least be a little bit better than that and actually want to become better. The question is just if the issues in his game can actually be fixed.
Yeah.
And if they will be fixed before the Giants, who are just completely cleansing the roster, do another roster cleanse and front office cleanse and say, we got to fix it because this isn't working.
Here's the other thing that I don't really understand. And this is something that kind of makes me raise my eyebrows a little bit, is because who did the Giants draft last year? Remind me, who did they draft last year in the first round with the 2nd overall pick?
Oh, Saquon.
I knew who they drafted. I was just being an asshole.
I actually honestly blanked on it for a second.
Where many people
passed
thought
up
they
the
could have taken Sam Darnold. But here's the thing that I find funny. Let's say, for the sake of argument, Daniel Jones takes 3 years, like Gettleman wants you to believe.
See you, Saquon.
That means 2019, 2020, 2021. That means if Daniel Jones plays that 3rd year, that's year 4 of Saquon. If he waits until that 4th year to play, that's the 5th-year option of Saquon. Like, that to me is the biggest question of, like, what the hell are you doing? You drafted the running back, which I did not bash the decision last year. I would have taken Saquon at number 2. Depending on what you were going to do this year for quarterback, and you go ahead and take a guy that you think will be 3 years. So, like, that's the biggest question to me of, so there's a possibility you're going, unless you're saying, like, and I know people are going to say, well, regardless, you're going to give Saquon his money at the end of 5 years.
But Saquon going to want it?
Are you? Well, and that's the thing. Really, is Saquon going to want to stay? Because he's like, this isn't like basketball where that first contract, they're an RFA, and teams have the chance to match the contract so you don't lose them. He's an unrestricted free agent after that 5th year. So, like, if he sees 1 year of Daniel Jones in his last year and is like, no, fuck this, I'm outie, and goes and gets paid by someone else.
Especially if the team, if Gettleman is gone, if Shermer is gone, there's a lot of things that could happen that make you a little nervous about whether Saquon's going to be there. This is truly a team that has embraced the rebuild, in my eyes. I think they're really going for it.
Here's what I think is going to happen. Dwayne Haskins in Washington is going to be fine. At best, he will be I don't want to put a cap on him, although I don't think he's going to be Tom Brady.
No, he's not Tom Brady.
I will say at best, I could see him being a Cam Newton type of quarterback. And when I say that, a starter where we don't question him being the starter, and with the right team around him and the right defense with him, could potentially be a Super Bowl quarterback. Not Super Bowl winning, but go to a Super Bowl type of quarterback, but he's going to need help to get there. He won't do it all on his own. At the worst, I think Dwayne Haskins is like a... Damn it, I don't think it's that... I don't think it's that big of a window. Like, my first thought was like a Matt Ryan, but Matt Ryan would kind of be in the same category as
Cam
Newton. I think the worst is that he's a starter that is kind of like makes the playoffs but doesn't make noise in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Alex Smith will probably be his floor to his ceiling being Cam Newton in my mind.
Not bad at all.
Where Daniel Jones, I got the future for you. You ready for it?
Yeah.
He'll start the end of this year. The last 5 games will be Daniel Jones. He'll start all of next year. Giants will be absolutely horrible. Number 1 pick. They're going to take Trevor Lawrence in the 2021 NFL draft.
Well,
and Daniel Jones will be out
in time,
of the league.
you'll be very pleased.
Yes, in time you'll be very pleased. Gettleman will be gone. They will look at it and go, well, we've got 2 years of Saquon. We got to get him a quarterback. They will be number 1. Daniel Jones could be the next Josh Rosen in my mind, where not next year, but the year after. I'm not going to say the Tua draft. I'm going to say the Trevor Lawrence draft. I think they will be number 1 overall in that year, the worst team in the NFL, and they will be forced to pick Trevor Lawrence because they need a quarterback, and Daniel Jones will be done as the quarterback of the Giants in 2 years.
I can see it.
Being one of the biggest busts of a top 10 pick. Not because he couldn't perform, but because the team needed to go somewhere else because they didn't have the time to wait.
But also, he wasn't the quarterback that they should have drafted.
He
there.
wasn't the quarterback that they should have drafted. What do you think is the future for both of these guys?
Dwayne Haskins, I think, is going to be a good quarterback. I think the Redskins, if they do the right things, if they put the team around him, they're a team that can go to the playoffs on a regular basis. I really like Dwayne Haskins as quarterback. I think he was the best quarterback in this draft. So good on you, Redskins fans. You should be happy. For Daniel Jones, I don't think he was a first rounder. He shouldn't have gone in there. It's a joke that he did. I get what they're thinking. This is a guy we can spend a lot of time with. I just don't know if you're truly going to have that time in New York, one of the hottest seats there is in football.
True.
I just don't see him getting much of a chance. I totally can see exactly what you're saying. Maybe plays a little bit of this year, maybe doesn't, but next year for sure plays. Team's not good. They just move on. Because there's only so much waiting you can do before the pressure gets put on, and the NFL is such a win now type of league.
They call New York the Mecca for a reason. New York is not used to being anywhere near bottom of the barrel. Like, New York is a city, and New Yorkers, I say this not as a bash, but like just as kind of like a, what's the term I'm saying for it? Just what I see from you guys is New York has a kind of cockiness, a kind of arrogance to them. And they don't like being not number 1. They don't like being not near the best. And it kills them each and every day that a team from Boston is on the top of the world and they're not.
Well, I mean, New York teams were 3, 6, and 9 in the draft, so they've been at the bottom for a little while now.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm saying it's wrong. They don't like to be. I mean, no one likes to be there, but like New Yorkers as a whole, like it's just they are, and it's a whole. Maybe it's the rivalry I see between us and them, where it's like who's the number 1 city, and who's kind of the best fan base and stuff like that between like New York and Chicago. Last question I want to ask you is with Dwayne Haskins, because I think we're both on board that he's going to have a nice career with the Redskins. Is that with Jay Gruden or coach number 2?
I could see coach number 2. I think it would just kind of make sense that it's going to be a slow start. So maybe Jay Gruden gets kind of pushed aside and they get a new coach. Hopefully they make a good choice in that case because, as we all know, we've talked about Alex Smith multiple times in this podcast. A revolving door of bad coordinators ruins a career.
And that's the thing I'm going to say is I think it is going to be second coach. The reason being is this will be the 5th year of Jay Gruden with the Redskins.
And it hasn't been great.
If they don't make the playoffs this year with Dwayne Haskins, I know that might be a lot for a rookie quarterback, but with how this team was with a good quarterback last year, if they're not in the playoff hunt this year, Gruden gets canned, and I will say this. I don't know who they bring in as the head coach, but if Gruden gets canned as head coach of the Redskins, he will become an offensive coordinator for the Raiders. I can smell it.
Makes sense.
I can smell him being right on the same coaching staff as John Gruden. But any final thoughts on anything we talked about before we wrap up the podcast?
Go Bears.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below what you guys think about anything we talked about. Winners and losers of the draft, Steelers of the draft, Josh Rosen, Dwayne Haskins, and Daniel Jones. Make sure to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/most valuable podcast. That's where you can help make sure we can get our new studio that we're raising money for. Every new dollar that we raise in 2019 is going towards that. You can also get good rewards like our access to our Discord server, the MVP podcast a month early before everyone else. You can also be able to be on a podcast at our gold tier, so you can check out those tiers and memberships down below in the description. You can also make sure to rate us 5 stars and review us on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. It really means the world to us and helps us get us into the ears of more people. And then you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Ricky Widmer. Mark is at the Mark Weber with 2 E's, and Most Valuable Podcast is at Most Valuable Pod. Want to thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Thank you guys for listening on podcast services around the world. And as always, have a good day, everybody.